I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. I still mess up, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground. I always get enough to see what's next. Birds don't just fly, they fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. I won't give up, no, I won't give in till I reach the end and then I'll start again. No, I won't leave, I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Zootopia Minute, the minute-by-minute podcast where we review and analyze everybody's favorite hit movie from 2016, Zootopia. I'm your host, Simul. I am joined here by my co-host, Choco. Say hi, Choco.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a very good PonyCon.
That's right. And we are also joined by our special guest today, ACRacebest. How you
What's
doing?
up, PonyFest?
Hope everybody's enjoying PonyFest Online so far. This is actually our first event that we've done in a live capacity over live stream. So this should be a lot of fun. Some of you may recognize us. We've done this panel a few times at different pony conventions, or maybe you listen online, in which case, thanks. We appreciate it. So what we just saw was minute 79 of the film Zootopia. So for those of you who are following along at home, that is from timestamp 1:19:00 to 1:19:59. And that minute begins on Judy saying, "What did you say?" in response to something that Gideon Gray had said in the last minute. Stu, her dad, says, "Oh, Gid's just talking about those flowers, Judy. I use them to keep the bugs off the produce, but I don't like the little ones going near them on account of what happened to your Uncle Terry." Bonnie, Judy's mother, then says, "Yeah, Terry ate one of those when we were kids and went completely nuts." "He bit the dickens out of your mother," says Judy's dad. Judy then has a sort of a realization sweep over her, and we can see that in her face. A bunny can go savage. Bonnie says, "Savage? Well, that's a strong word, but it did hurt like the devil." "Well, sure it did," Stu says. "There's a sizable divot in your arm. I'd call that savage." Judy now has a sudden realization. Night howlers aren't wolves, they're flowers. The flowers are making the predators go savage. That's it. That's what I've been missing. Runs up to try and get the keys to the pickup truck. Keys, where are they? Hurry, come on. Stu has to toss them to her. "Thank you, love you, bye." And then we end on Stu saying, "You catch any of that Bon?" Bonnie replies, "Not one bit." Gideon has the lovely line, "Well, that makes me feel a little bit better. I thought she was talking in tongues or something." And we end on a scene of Judy driving off towards Zootopia with Zootopia off in the distance as our scene transition ends. So just for some context on where we are in the movie, this is after Judy has quit the ZPD, quit the police force, and moved back to Bunnyborough to kind of give up because she felt that she divided the whole city due to what was said at that press conference in regards to predators being the only ones going savage. But now she's had this sort of realization about some of the elements we've seen earlier in the film, suggesting at what might be causing these animals to go savage. So it's sort of a turnaround for us. Choco, did you have any opening thoughts here?
Well, again, another minute that starts and ends in perfect bookmarks. We have a very,
Yes.
I'm very excited to see what the next minute is because it kind of ends on an epic note. And there are a few things I want to talk about, but we'll get there when it comes to it.
Sure thing. Race, what do you think so far?
This moment in the movie, and granted, a lot of the minutes that you guys have been through up to this point obviously have a lot that happens in each of them, but I feel like this is such a critical minute in the movie. It's basically the U-turn for Judy from her entire moment of I guess, despair and regret and guilt. And this moment of realization of, oh my gosh, there's the last piece of this puzzle that we've been missing this whole time in this case. You see, like, you can almost feel like Judy's soul coming back into her body
Right.
as she's just sitting there staring while her parents are talking off to the side. And again, a lot of the detail I love in this. There's little things like the buck teeth on the truck, and I know we can go on about this for the next hour, but yeah, I mean, I love this moment because it's just that feeling where you get re-energized as an audience member, where you're like, yes, all right, we're back on track, we're going back to Zootopia, let's go get them. So I love this minute.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's rather interesting. It's not a huge amount of time that has elapsed since Judy decided to quit the ZPD, but I don't think that it takes any more time than is really needed to communicate what you need to know about what Judy has done in going back. Is that she's essentially given up on everything that she set out to do by setting out to Zootopia. So she's like at the lowest point right now, and having this moment of realization wash over her is definitely going to be something that's going to reinvigorate her. So yeah,
it's like we were saying, just the first arc that we went through already could be a movie on its own. So the fact is trying to compress all these different plot points. It's transitioning along very nicely, trying to tell as much as needed, but moving the plot along.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I love this is another kind of look into transportation methods. Obviously, we've seen cars throughout, but just seeing like the highway and that shot at the end of this minute where it just pans up and you see the scope of Zootopia out of the forest. I don't know. It just, there's something almost feels nostalgic about this shot of just like, I don't know what, I don't know really how to describe it, but it's, that coupled with the music, it just, again, it's a re-energizing moment and just makes you ready to figure out what's next. Like you said, you're like, something epic is coming. What's next?
That's a good cliffhanger shot there. I'm showing it on the stream screen as well. Yeah, no, that's really something. Well, let's take a look at some of the dialogue here a little bit more closely here, trying to get to the bottom of what the realization regarding these flowers is and why is this so important. So our first line here, Judy asking, what did you say? And Stu's responding, that Gid is for talking about these flowers. I use them to keep the bugs off produce, but I don't like the little ones going near them on account of what happened to your Uncle Terry. So clearly there's some sort of chemical effect going on with this plant, and that's the significance here. This is some sort of like either like a poison ivy kind of deal, or maybe like a catnip thing almost, if the insinuation is that this has something to do with the animals going savage.
Yeah, no, it does. It's interesting too, because this, again, up to this point in the movie, I think a lot of us were wondering, like, what is going on? Is there some kind of weird, like, evolutionary pull happening to predators at this point? I think it was hard to figure out, at least up to this point, like, is somebody causing this to happen, or is it naturally occurring?
Right.
And so this is where you get that answer, and it's and then just following the next few steps of dialogue, that's another part that I feel like I've discussed even recently in regards to, is it just predators? I don't know how much you guys have discussed a certain show that's out right now called Beastars.
Right.
But I know that's been something I've been talking with people in regards to comparing.
Great show.
And this is something I actually use to contrast the two works, because for me, this shows that it's not just predators that are susceptible to having this happen. It's anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Prey, predators, maybe the bugs. I don't know. So it's
the bugs are going to fight back, right? Because aren't bugs the protein of the world? That's like the one thing they're allowed to eat.
Well, it's funny you brought Beastars, because every time a new anthropomorphic movie or property comes out, we end up trying to compare them with Zootopia. So when BoJack came out, we were comparing the world building of BoJack, and then when Agresico came out, we compared the workplace environment for these animals and how it represents the predator and prey dynamic. And then, of course, now that Beastars came out, it's like, okay, it's basically doing a darker take on Zootopia, addressing things that Zootopia is skirting over, because again, different audiences, different environments. So it's it's interesting and it's fascinating that people are more embracing the concept of anthropomorphic animals, which used to be the most common property out there. And I guess it got the stigma, and now it's becoming popular again.
Good.
It is interesting. We were discussing Beastars because neither of us had seen it, and then recently we started watching it. And Choco, I think you haven't finished it yet, right?
I haven't.
You had to stop
finished
it at like the awkward second to last episode.
It's not the Beastars Minute,
Yeah.
but it's not a show that I'm not a fan of too much awkward romance. That's just not.
And I am, so there's the difference. I think. Yeah, well, it was the type of thing too where I have my like weeaboo friends and I have my furry friends, and there is some overlap, but now it's like is who's gonna claim that show more, the furries or the otakus? They're gonna have to fight over it, I think. But no, that show is interesting in the way that it also looks at that same predator-prey dynamic, but they address things there that Zootopia maybe couldn't also address and maintain the rating that they got. So, you know,
I mean, Zootopia was still pretty mature for a lot of themes it covered. So, I mean, for a all ages family film.
That's true.
I guess if for this specific minute, I kind of, again, want to get on that point where Judy's dad has a long scientific name to describe this plant, which the little bunny kids are aware of because they stopped short of it. And yet these shorthand night howlers, it seems like Judy has no knowledge of, even though it should be common in this town where these plants are common, especially if it's being grown in her family farm.
Maybe she had heard that as a term, and you're right, because her dad refers them as Midnicampum holocithius, which is the scientific name. I think I said it right that time. Yeah, I know. We were recording the last episode, and it literally took me 5 takes, and then we had to like cut out all the wrong takes of me saying that word. Yeah. You're right. Maybe it's the type of thing where Judy is like, oh, duh. Like, it's just something that was being blocked in her memory, and then she comes rushing back to it. You ever have that happen where, for some reason, it's just there's something in your head that you can't access until something sort of unlocks it? Maybe it's like that sort of nostalgic rushing back kind of thing.
Well, she's not a very good detective then.
Sure.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, we've been fairly critical of Judy's aptitude as a police bunny through the course of the show, I think. But anyway, more of the context we get from the discussion they're having about these plants here. Bonnie saying, yeah, Terry ate one of those when we were kids. He went completely nuts. He bit the dickens out of your mother. So it clearly has some sort of chemical effect on animals that causes them to go kind of crazy, like we were comparing it to catnip or something. The other relevant part of this that you might not remember from just seeing this minute is that we have encountered this flower earlier in the movie as well. AC, I'm sure you remember where that is. Let's quiz you.
It is. It pops up after Judy's explaining to Bogo that these aren't onions, sir.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So she is aware of exactly what she found here because, you know, plant husbandry is kind of a thing.
So she's evidently aware of the effect that they have too, if she's grown up with them and her dad has been planting them this whole time as well. So you're right, Choco, maybe it is she just doesn't know the name.
She is very bad,
but
yes.
Yes. Judy is trash. That's what the takeaway here is. I guess.
Is it possible, what I maybe took from this is that it wasn't the name that she was missing. It was the shorthand term that Gideon brings up, calling them night howlers, where she might have always known it and recognized it as Minicampum holocithius.
I know, but it's such a long phrase. Like, you would assume if it's a dangerous plant like that, you'll need a shorthand to warn the kids, hey, stay away from them. Like,
but her dad doesn't, though. In the scene, her dad doesn't. So
I think he's just trying to show off. He's just trying to sound smart in front of guests.
But Gideon, because it's not until Gideon specifically calls it calls them night howlers. He's like, "Oh, that's what we call them." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, it's the street term for
Yeah,
these
right.
plants."
I mean, again, it's the same town, it's the same small community.
Ask your
I'm
dealer
sure,
for night howlers,
Yeah.
and he'll know where to go.
I'm sure they use if they're all in the same community, I'm sure they all use this. All the farmers use this as, I guess, a pest deterrent, as Judy's dad was saying.
Some
So
sort of pesticide.
I'm sure the street term should at least be common among them, especially if they're buying it.
Unless maybe they're just like really pompous about they're like, we know a big word here at the farm, so we're not gonna call
We're
it that.
sophisticated too.
Right, pinkies up.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, they must have to. I guess they just cultivate it out there. I don't know if you would buy it somewhere. Maybe they get it from the black market, right? It's the black market from Beastars too, but that's what they don't talk about.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The thing I wonder is that obviously this becomes a widespread issue in Zootopia.
Mm-hmm.
So is it just very uncommon or unknown that this drug or plant has this effect on other animals that other scientists maybe didn't pop up and go, well, is it possible this is what's having everyone go crazy?
The media censored them, right?
The farming
trying to turn us
community is like, they
against us.
can't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, you would think, but that's kind of a theme common to a lot of films like this and a lot of shows, or it's similar to that trope of protagonists forgetting about their superpowers for the convenience of like a specific trap that they're supposed to fall into or something like that.
Twilight.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, the teleporting, right? That gets me every time. So many places. Why do you even take the train? We know she can teleport long distance. Like, come on.
It's true.
I don't get it. All right, let's take a look at the transcript again. So Judy's realization at this point is a bunny can go savage, right? Because her whole stipulation is that, well, the only animals going savage are predators. But now she's having this indication, well, if it's a result of the flowers, yes, it really can be anyone. And guess what? Those flowers were the same things that Duke Weaselton had stolen when he was running through Little Rodentia, which is another awesome minute that, Race, you were our guest for that minute as well. I think that was our very first live episode, actually, at Everfree.
So
Throwback to that. That was good.
Yeah. It's that moment, too, the bunny can't go savage, also carries that extra weight because it's like the exact thing that Judy said maybe until or before she realized the levity of her situation with Nick at the police department, because she literally says to him, it's not like a bunny can go savage.
Right. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's all flowing back to like, oh my God, a bunny can go savage. So yeah, that moment of realization just hits you like a train in this scene.
I know. She can't be feeling too good about that. Also, like, it's a realization that's good because it means she knows which direction she's supposed to go, but there's probably also a little bit of regret in there as well, I would imagine. Yeah. So it's a mixed bag for sure. Let's see. Savage, that's a strong word, but it did hurt like the devil, is the conversation her parents are continuing to have. Well, sure it did. There's a sizable divot in your arm. I'd call that savage. Judy then continues, night howlers aren't wolves. These are all the realizations she's making, which the dialogue lays out for us almost like it's a list. Night howlers aren't wolves. They're flowers. The flowers are making the predators go savage. That's it. That's what I've been missing. And it is at that point that she then runs to the pickup truck and has to get the keys from Stu, who kind of fumbles with them, tosses them to Judy, who grabs them to get into the truck before she says, thank you, I love you, bye. And then we have this final scene that we've already seen, literally, where she drives off in the truck and we have this awesome view of her going back into Zootopia. And I gotta say, I love every time this movie gives us an establishing shot for Zootopia, because, I mean, there's just so much to love about the way that looks. It's so dramatic. I have it up on the stream. I don't know if you guys can see it, but look at that perfect like cone or mountain shaped skyline. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, the detail that's just in it. You could look at this for an hour and just be like, oh.
Yeah, all the details you have to render out in this kind of thing. I mean, this makes me think about the way that they actually do render out a movie like this, because I don't suppose they've animated it to the point where you zoom in on that cityscape and there's like people walking around in it, right? That's definitely not the case. But the way they used like different sets of the same scene, this is probably set up similar to if they were filming this IRL, they'd use a model, right? A scale model. You almost have to build your 3D model for the movie in the same kind of scaled down sense. But just any time we get a scene like this, I love taking a look at that. That's just exquisite. Every frame a painting, as they say.
Such a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it really is. So, were there any other notes that we had on the minute as a whole? It's pretty simple, pretty encapsulated.
Yes. If you guys might know, Simul and I, we are fascinated in religious theming and mentions, and we heard Gideon talking about speaking in tongues. So that's another religious reference
That's right.
in this movie.
That's right. I did want to bring that up. That's a great line, by the way. There was a lot of laughs at that line when I first saw this movie in theaters. This last bit, as she's driving away, Stu says, "You catch any of that, Bond?" "No, not one bit." And then Gideon says, "Well, that makes me feel a little bit better. I thought she was talking in tongues or something." That line got a lot of laughs in the theater, and I do appreciate that. Because it kind of speaks to, I don't know, you kind of get the impression that Bunny Burrow is in this like very sort of traditionalist rural kind of area, right? Mm-hmm. So it has that sense you'd get from like the sort of Pentecostal kind of scene that you'd get in these sort of cloistered communities or something.
Yeah, they this scene's actually funny because that specific line, and this blew my mind. But if there's one person, there were probably a couple more. I remember after seeing the movie that one person that I knew was like, "Yeah, I took issue with Zootopia," and I was like, "Oh, like what about it?" And they're like, "Well, it made fun of religion," and I was like, "What?" And they quoted this scene. Like I was like, "Man, I didn't take it that way." Like while there are those connections, I'm like, I think you're being a little sensitive about this.
Probably.
Yeah, this person had their mind made up, I think, maybe before they saw the movie. But
I don't think it's making like any kind of negative statement about it, or a statement in any direction, right? It's literally just a line that the character says that sort of fits with the feel of that character in that setting, you know?
Maybe they connected too closely to Gideon, and they're like, "Oh
right.
my gosh."
They're just relating so much with Gideon. It's more like themselves every...
Is this a personal attack? What?
Yes. It's the butterfly meme. Is this a personal attack? I need that as my background. I've seen the comments in the chat about this background. Thank you. I do appreciate it. This is actually one of the same tigers that was in the dance at the end of Zootopia.
Yeah.
Wow. That Your Movie Sucks loves.
Yes, that YMS loves. Those are the ones. Well, let's see. We've got like a whole half hour left, and we got through the minute portion pretty quick. So unless there's other notes on this specific minute, we can get into sort of just some more general Zootopia talk, or talk about anything that happens to be our minds.
I mean, I'm sure we're gonna have things pop up again. This minute is just such a pivotal turning point.
Yeah.
For the entire movie. In the 30 times that I was in theaters watching this movie, every time I would get jazzed for this scene, and I think part of that is it's such a tonal change because you just came off of the fight that Judy and Nick had,
right,
and then a indeterminate amount of time that suddenly we see Judy sitting here hopelessly on her farm, just kind of regretting everything, and you just feel this like there's like this loss of hope, really. And then obviously in the previous minutes that you guys were have gone over, Gideon shows up, and you kind of get this at least little bit of redemption moment for Gideon, which for a lot of people is unexpected. And then it leads into this where it's again, it just feels like bam, the batteries are back in. The energy picks back up, and suddenly it's like, okay, here's that moment, that turning point where you go, what is our character going to do to solve this problem? And it's like, okay, here's a puzzle piece, put in the puzzle. Now they can go forward and see about figuring out the next question, which is, okay, so this is it, but how, why, who? So yeah, no, I again, I love this scene. I love it. I love the music behind this scene.
Yeah.
And that shot, I love just watching the truck carefully as it drives through the woods on that pan out, because you kind of see Judy in the truck bouncing around.
Right.
I did, and man, I mean, she's a wheel girl. She'll pedal to the metal. So
I'm wondering
Okay.
how much longer it takes to drive there as opposed to taking the train.
That's
because
right.
She
She
did
did take the train
first time,
before.
and she's driving. And also, isn't that her family's
Yeah,
truck? Weren't
good
they
point.
doing their own business? And now she's taking it into town. So, what?
Wait a minute. How are we supposed to get home?
Yeah, exactly.
Judy! Oh my gosh.
man,
Can you imagine? Gideon could give them a ride home in his great big pie van.
there you go.
That nice
I
big pink
and
pie
again,
van.
I love that they couldn't help themselves. And they're like, we have to put buck teeth on the front of this truck just to emphasize this is a bunny truck. Like,
We haven't met our animal visual pun reference quota for the shot
No.
yet.
Now,
You
I
have to
guess we have
fill
to
in
go
every
back
box.
to B-Stars and watch to see
Oh,
if
good.
B-Stars cars have the bunny teeth on them, too.
I don't think so. That's what's interesting about B-Stars. I like that we're going back to B-Stars. Welcome to this is no longer Zootopia Minute. This is B-Stars Minute.
The BoJack Minute.
So that's the thing is, I feel like the universe of Beastars is more like Zootopia, but the character design is much more like BoJack because they're more anthro, right? Especially you spot it most when you look at like the chicken character, right? Where it's literally just like a regular person's body just with a chicken head coming out of like the hoodie that she's wearing or something.
Well, I think something we pointed out when we were watching it together, the mice almost get stepped on, and we're like, well, that's an issue Zootopia already solved.
Yes.
This World of Beastars that still has not evolved past the point of having separate levels for different size animals.
Yeah.
I
They have their own
my
little rodentia.
I've spoken again. I've had this come up a couple times. In comparison the two worlds, to me, it feels like Beastar's world is almost like they had an anime world, and as they were putting characters in, they're like, wait. Instead of humans, why don't we put in anthropomorphic animals? So, and then just all the animals were like, oh, crud. Well, we just have to figure out our situation now. Like I think even Beastars literally says, like, oh yeah, the mice remember to walk up against the wall. It's like, okay, fine.
Well, I think what makes them unique is, so both Beastars and the Gressico versus BoJack and Zootopia really represent the culture that they were developing and address specifically things that our current generations are going through now. Now, I was actually talking to a furry historian who's tracking the history of anthropomorphism in culture, and I think it's a point that a lot of people do bring up, is that we use our fables and stories, and in most cases we use animals to represent things that might be too alienating if we portray humans. So these anthropomorphic shows and movies are essentially just modern day fables. Specifically looking at like Beastars, you have the awkward romance, which is very, very big in Japanese anime, and of course that Yakuza style gang warfare, and of course
Right.
the office work environment of a Gressico. In BoJack, you have what Americans like to go through, the idea of trying to achieve something and realizing you haven't achieved that dream. And with Zootopia, of course, the prejudice, classism, and racism. So they really highlight the specific elements that each culture, America and Japan, are going through.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that they all took a similar prompt, and the differences between those cultures sort of came out in the way that they were expressed. The way that each of them did their own content differently that way. But in regards to the movie as a whole, Ace, you're right earlier pointing out about it being a turning point. It's kind of like if we were to look at the graph of the action in the movie. We had a lot of rising action. This is probably going backwards on the video. I don't even know. We had rising action where they were going after Mayor Lionheart, right? Her and Nick had figured out what was going on. They went to that psychiatric hospital. They figured out Mayor Lionheart's behind it. They were able to get him arrested. We have this, like, they're on a roll, right? They're going up until the point of this press conference where suddenly everything starts going downhill because of what Judy said that made Nick so upset. So now we're in this sort of lull where everything seems like it's not going so great anymore. But now we have a sort of a rebirth. And I do think that is the way that's the trope you would use if you were doing the whole hero's journey cycle, I think, is that this is the death and rebirth sequence that we're sort of seeing here. So it's a very important moment in the movie. I'm kind of glad we had a nice pivotal minute like this to do our live episode. So yeah, it'll take the next few minutes to see whether Judy is able to take that realization and put it to good use to get back on track. Can she get Nick to help her again? We'll find out. Of course, if you've already seen this movie, you might already know.
Don't spoil us.
But
we're not there yet.
We've totally never watched the whole of this film before. So don't do that.
So committed to their craft, guys. I can't believe this.
Yeah, that's the way you gotta do it. Well, so that's kind of the minute portion out of the way. We've discussed that 1 minute of the movie. I guess another thing to talk about is just kind of how life is going for everybody. This is the way our podcast works. Our second half kind of just leads into some more casual kind of stuff. And last episode that me and Choco did was the first one we did since all this quarantine stuff started happening. So there was a lot of kind of new stuff going on. And if you look at our title card that Choco made here, I'll actually fade to that real quick because I want people to see it again. You can see.
And in the meantime, we will start taking questions afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
So feel free to start asking questions in the question stage area.
Yes. So mods, if you can go ahead and open up that questions channel for Neural Net stage, if it's not already open, we'll go ahead and field them from there. So here's our title card. Choco made it nice and coronavirus themed, I guess, with the face masks. Also, one other thing to notice is how long our hair is, which I feel is definitely accurately reflected IRL. If you compare me now to me at first PonyFest, my hair was definitely much shorter, and I didn't have all this either. So.
And also another thing to notice, I've bestowed a Zoosona on AC.
Not fursonas. We're not furries, by the way.
You have been a guest at least 6 times now, and you still haven't decided on an animal, so I had to just pick one for you. So,
funny enough, I think you because ZNN they also asked me the same thing. They're like, you need to get a Zoosona, which everyone's very careful about. No, not Fursona, Zoosona, and you just about like, I'm trying to remember. I think it said a coyote, a blonde coyote or whatever, and they're like, okay, and then like I'm like, oh dang, this is pretty close to the exact same thing. So I was like, all right, perfect. So. Yeah, everyone's bestowing upon me. I will take all the Zoosonas. I'll just be every animal. Yes.
Awesome.
But you did give me a facial mask. So now I feel
Yeah,
exposed.
wait a minute. Yeah. That doesn't seem right at all.
Yeah, so you're the one who's going to be contaminating everybody.
I was looking at it earlier at the end of our earlier panel. We did Jackbox with some of our friends, and I'm like, this looks like I'm the person who's like they're protecting themselves from.
Right.
So, fair enough, I guess. If we're getting into Q&A, by the way, I need to grab something.
Sure, no problem.
I guess updates on what's happening. So if you guys don't know, I've moved to Orlando recently, so I'm right in the heart of the Disney parks and stuff.
Gosh.
And yeah, I guess the Disney parks have been shut down, and originally they were planning to be reopened. I think May 1st was the estimated day they wanted to reopen. That's when they were retaking applications. But yeah, now it looks like the most recent news, it's saying it probably won't be until next year that the Disney parks will be open. So that might even affect the Zootopia Land opening all the way in Asia.
Oh, wow.
The number one incentive to visit Shanghai.
I know. Just honestly, that's the only reason why I'll visit the PRC is to go visit Zootopia Land.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, we do have a few questions coming in here. First of all, Race, I approve. Also, where did you get that? Because here, that my question first. Where did you get that?
This was an overseas special, guys. They had these in actually wait, I got it right here. Yeah. Let's see here. Yep, Shanghai.
Speaking of, wow.
Yeah. I had some people help me out in acquiring this one. So yeah.
So-
She's huge. She's
No
huge.
kidding.
Yeah, I got my Nick hat. A lot of my Nick merchandise, if you guys can see back on my shelf.
I
a lot of
see
it
it.
is from
You
the
don't have
Shanghai
enough
parks.
Nicks. You need more.
I know. I need more Nicks. I think I have almost
Send
every
Choco
single Nick.
Nicks.
Yes.
Do that.
I also have the Nick here, right there. So a lot of Nicks.
I like the
everywhere.
cardboard cutout one. That's my
I
favorite.
know that one was hard to track
The
down
life
because
size. Bring
no
that one up.
Ameri-
Bring that one up. Let everyone have a good look at that one. That's the best one. Oh boy.
So for the record, I found a Judy Hopps one of that,
Oh really?
and Sarah did draw the line. She's like, we don't have a big enough place. That's not going in our apartment. So I'm on hold on acquiring my Judy Hopps cardboard cutout because
So apparently, so a lot of American places do sell movie cutouts, but America did not specifically, and I had to track that down all the way from the UK to get it. So a lot of the merchandise is hard.
That's
Like half the
disappointing.
merchandise on my shelf, they're all from the Asian theme parks, from specific Tokyo, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. So I'm really surprised how rare Zootopia merch is in America when it's so popular.
We've
get
discussed
all
that
the good
before
stuff.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. It's hard to find, even though like I don't know. Maybe we're just
And
biased, but
Actually, I'm not sure
I
if
feel like
you
that
guys
movie did
could
a good job. And
yeah, if you guys see up here, that's a picture of me with Nick and Judy from the parks. They're very sweet.
yes, you
They
can
were on
find-
Main Street. That's the one when that was when it was raining, and Nick grabbed my arm and had me walking down Main Street.
Aw,
into the shelter.
that's
Yeah.
sweet. That's super
So,
cool.
actually, in terms, I guess for Q&A, we do have Andy from the ZNN, the Zootopia News Network, in our chat. So welcome.
Oh yeah.
And
hey Andy.
And
Thanks for
I
coming.
know when we mentioned the difference between these Zoosonas and Fursonas, he was the one who quickly defended it. Now, if you guys know, we of course are say there is a difference in a joking manner, but in some cases, I think Simul, you had a specific argument of why Zoosonas and Fursonas were different. So would you care to explain that?
No, my argument is simply that if you don't say you're a furry, you're not a furry. Like
And
it,
I
it
think
takes actively saying yes, I'm okay with that label, right? But here's the thing: you can be a fan of any kind of media without being a fan of the larger.
yeah, like you could be
Community
a Star Trek. You could be a Star Trek fan without specifically being a general
A
science
Trekkie.
fiction fan. Yeah.
There are Star Trek fans and there are Trekkies. Well, this is sort of tangential, but I think half of what it takes to define yourself as a member of a fandom is that participation in the culture of it, not just the piece of media itself.
But
So-
also, I think in terms of, because we were discussing this with a lot of our previous guests, like we had YMS, Your Movie Sucks, we had Pembroke, we had a lot of people who already had Fursonas, but we had to choose a specifically different animal for their Zoosona.
because Zoosonas can't be domesticated
they can't be
animals.
domesticated. They still have to have as much original animal features. So it's as opposed to having more, though I know a lot of Fursonas still do have animal proportions, specifically with our Zootopia characters. They do have to have animal proportions, correct animal size, and natural coloring, I think was the other thing we were focusing on.
Right, so you don't get your Technicolor wolves like you get at a furry convention.
Yeah.
It would just kind of throw the color palette of the movie off, I think, if Zootopia had like the magenta, yellow, cyan colored foxes and stuff coming in.
yeah, the bright green glow in the dark.
Wait, that's probably just what like the scene and emo kids in that universe look like. They just look like
Emo kids are just Fursonas.
Yeah. Emo kids, Fursonas, same difference, you know. In that universe, definitely the same thing. All right, let's look, because we do have a few questions coming through the chat here. So, let's see. Someone asked a really good one. Oh, yes. Kyle Bush 51 fan 2 says, what do you believe happened to Gideon to change his behavior? So that's in reference to the fact that at the beginning of the movie, Gideon was a jerk, the childhood bully kind of archetype, really. And in the minute right before this one, he apologizes to Judy for all of that, and he He apologizes for the way he behaved in his youth and that he had a lot of self-doubt, which manifested itself in unchecked rage and aggression. I believe those were the words he used. Which I think hinted us to maybe it's therapy, because that sounds like therapy talk to me.
Or like, if you talk to any friends who were probably raised in very, very hardcore traditional families who had specific beliefs, after they, went out to the world, went to college, went through the workforce, met a lot of people with different mindsets, you see them evolving to have very different beliefs and come to regret the way they used to act in their childhood. So it's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know that Saberspark and I have talked quite a bit because I think that's his favorite. Or at
you
least
guys talk to each other?
Only when people are watching. No,
Gotcha.
But I know that's one of his favorite scenes purely because of that factor. Again, this is something that a lot of movies don't do. They don't go through the trouble of I guess like redeeming the childhood bully in a movie, and that they brought him back and showing that not only should we not have these premonitions about each other, but also people can change. And I agree where it definitely sounds like therapy talk. And that, it's very much, it's something that we believe that Gideon has been kind of rehearsing this apology for a long time.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, like
sure.
He's been waiting to like get this chance, and the moment that he got it, where Judy shows up, like he doesn't even like blink. It's like, okay, here's my chance, my moment of forgiveness or I guess apology, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think the overarching theme we got out of that previous minute was that people do change. That was kind of the overall message there, and that it can happen to anybody, no matter what their starting perspective was. It's tough that we're talking about the last minute, because if you want, you can also go and listen to that episode where we talked about that. But it's good to bring up here too, I think. There's sort of a mirror image thing going on in that previous minute where we have two instances of characters having expressed growth, maturity in terms of moving away from more prejudiced kind of mindsets, where we had Gideon maturing as he grew older and realizing he was a jerk and apologizing to Judy. We also had Judy's parents, because Judy was surprised to learn that they were even working with Gideon. Remember, Judy's parents gave her that fox repellent and stuff at the beginning of the movie. And in this previous minute is actually when her dad says, yeah, you changed our minds about foxes when you were talking. And it just goes to show you that, these people do change. If you have some sort of prejudice mindset, or, you think less of certain kinds of people or any of that kind of thing, oftentimes the best recipe for that is just immersion in it or direct exposure to it. And I just think that last minute was really cool, and that it shows, yes, anybody has the ability to change their ways.
Yeah. Well, and plus, just to add to it, I'm sure her parents realize that at some point Judy's going to marry a fox, so they're like, we might as well get to know
yeah.
him, so.
They've just resigned to this already. Gotta get used to the idea. Oh boy.
All right, let's see.
What other questions do we have? I think we've got about 15,
I see
10 minutes left.
What's your white whale merch in Zootopia? So I did want to address that. So my white whale one merch for the longest time has been this. This is a limited edition release. You can only get it at D23 Expo. I went there and waited in line for this. This sold out right away. The limited edition of 250. These are very expensive. They were originally for sale for $17. I had to pay a lot more for it, but I'm very, very happy to get it. But if there's a specific piece of Zootopia thing I would want in my collection, I would so want the mascot head of the Nick Wilde. At the Disney parks. And I do know sometimes some of the suits do end up on the black market and end up being resold.
The Beastars black market?
Yes. I think Disney is actually clamping down on that, so I don't think I'll ever get one. But if I could get the Nick Wilde head, that's definitely my white whale.
Dear Santa.
So white whale would be what we like the hard thing to actually get.
That
Was
you really want.
Oh, like so you're Captain Ahab, and that's
Yeah.
the one thing you're after. Okay.
There was on Main Street in Disneyland. There was this hand painted, and it was there for like at least a year, I think, which surprised me. But it was just saying like, oh, Zootopia is on DVD or whatever. But it was hand painted. It was sitting there on Main Street next to the candy shop, and they always have this window where they advertise movies that are coming or have been out and are on DVD. And I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, like at some point they're gonna get rid of this. And I'm like, how do I get it? How do I? And that's when I found out that they actually apparently do like auction stuff with some of the park stuff that they get rid of. But I did not find the right person to talk to because I don't work at Disneyland. And
I actually bumped to one of our former listeners at the park the other day before they closed down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of our former Zootopia listeners, he actually worked at the park. So that's so I guess there are fans who work at the parks, and I do know at least 3 people who have who were friends with Nick Wilde at the parks. So I do know some of them, but it's hard to get things because you don't want to
friends,
abuse
friends of Nick Wilde.
friends and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you guys know, I had quite the interaction with the two of them about a month, maybe 2 ago, where
right before quarantine.
Yeah. How long has it been? So I'll just make this quick. But essentially, what happened was we got to their last gathering or their last meet and greet at California Adventure. And we got in line. The line was long. And so the cast members were telling us, they're like, just a heads up, you can be in line. But once their time is up, they're just going to do a quick walkthrough to everybody, which, by the way, I've never seen before. I've never seen the characters actually do a walkthrough of the line to like greet people that they ran out of time for. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
And so they did that. And it was their last time. And then I think the guy was like, but because it's their last time and there's so many people, we're going to actually add another hour, which is another thing. I was like, like, guys, we're talking 4 years since the movie came out, right? And their line is still so long that they're adding times. Like, I didn't even know Disney does this, where they're like, we have a schedule, but we added another time slot because they're so popular. This, again, happened a month or 2 ago. And so I was like, yes, cool. And Judy comes up, gives us hugs, sees my shirt. I'm wearing one of the Judy Hop shirts. She gets excited. And then Nick comes up and I guess like recognized me and is like pointing and saying like, you need to come here. He didn't do this to anyone else. He's like saying you have to be here at 5, but he has this many fingers. So he counted one of them twice. And we did. So we're like, okay, we'll hang out. And I told Sarah, take a video of this because I don't know what the plan is here. Mm-hmm. And as Judy's walking up, I was looking at Sarah. I didn't see Nick, and he came up from behind me and like tackled me.
Oh,
and I was like mind blown. The Disney characters came to meet me. Wow. You're
the chosen one.
I mean, they are the sweetest. Especially the like you're saying, the California Adventure. But I'm sure you guys already heard the story many times, but the fact that one of the California Adventure Nicks I gave art to found me at a FurryCon because he recognized my artwork, and now we're best of friends. So I mean, it's just so cool how out of the way they go to give the Zootopia fans what they really crave. Especially in Walt Disney World, there is no meet and greet. There was like that rare one that I got that picture where it was a spontaneous that one Friday. But yeah, there is a demand for them, and I really wish at least the American parks would start adding more Zootopia stuff, especially in Animal Kingdom. But that's another story.
Yep.
Just turn it into Zootopia Land. Come on.
Right. Let's quickly see if we could tackle another question before. Simul, is there anyone that you think looks good?
Is there anyone I think looks good?
Oh, actually,
Well, I
one
can
person
only
said,
see that what they write. I can't see their faces.
Can you tell us about the Disneyland actor behind the Nick Wilde suit? Well, I'll just say I don't think he no longer works there, but he now fursuits. I think he kind of found the fursuiting community because of being Nick Wilde. So he does fursuits. You might see him at FurryCons.
Right. Let's see. If you got any more questions, put them in now. Now's your chance, fellas.
How would you guys rate my Zootopia based character? It looks like a hyena. It looks really cute. I like it.
It looks good. I like that.
What's the best minute out of the movie so far?
Ooh.
Well, we have to watch the whole movie first before we can make the decision.
Yeah. I think I've definitely had like favorite episodes that we've done. Not to say that like the minute of the film is my favorite, but just the minutes that have been the most fun to talk about.
I like the one we did with Adam from Your Movie Sucks because
that was cool.
Because we asked him what was his favorite Disney movie. Because if you guys have seen any of his reviews, he's very critical with a lot of Pixar and Disney movies, and he mentioned how much he loved Lion King in that episode. And now he's doing a review on the live action Lion King, and also doing a review debunking the claim that Kimba the White Lion was the inspiration for Lion King. And the fact that he's dedicated enough to make a 90-minute review just debunking that claim shows how big of a Lion King fan he is. But that was a good episode to kind of pick his brain on topics like that. Right.
All right. I see 2 more people typing here. D Penguin says thoughts on BNA. What is that?
That is that's the new Beastars. It's another furry anime show. I think it's called...
Oh, really? There's another one I have to watch now?
BNA stands for Brand New Animal, and it's actually TF1. So as opposed to just Animal, it's my area.
Yeah,
TF,
tune into the Pony TF panel later at whenever it is.
We'll be doing a Pony Transformation panel at 8:30 Eastern. So if you guys like Transformation, be sure to check that out.
Cool. Let's see. Not Lena Hall says, do you think a sequel, if still following Judy, should have her become the chief? I assume that means the chief of police. I don't know if that's necessarily the right path for Judy to take. Although, I don't know. You could probably argue it one way or the other. I don't expect to see that happen in the movie. And partially because I actually do like Bogo as a character. I don't want to see, I want to see more Bogo. So I'm not sure about that.
I don't know how much I see her. I don't know if she'd... I don't know. I don't know if...
The main thing is she never wanted to be behind a desk. That's the reason why she was against any paperwork stuff. So, and being a chief of police will put her back behind a desk. So I don't think
maybe in her later years, maybe that's something that she drifts towards. Yeah. But all I gotta say is the way this question asks if it's still following Judy, I'm like, there is absolutely no option. The sequel better be following Judy.
Unless they make it like what was it? The Cloverfield movies where the sequels weren't really sequels. They just took other movies they had and slapped that name on it. Which is what happened with Trolls 2, by the way. That's how we got Trolls 2.
It's like Disney buys Sing, and it's like Sing is now Zootopia 2.
Right. Okay, so we're just about out of time because I know our stream techs like us to...
we have our friend Finn. He did ask about
very quickly.
Any birds or aquatic characters. Well, I think that was something they specifically mentioned. They didn't want to show any avian or aquatic characters. They did show fish, but they weren't anthropomorphic fish. These fish were used as proteins in tundra land. So they specifically want to build a world where the carnivores did eat protein still, but it was fish. So I guess in that case, they couldn't show any aquatic anthropomorphic animals, but I think they said they're open to that in a future movie. So who knows?
All right. Well, we are pretty much out of time. ACRacebest, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. I always enjoy this show of yours.
Awesome. All right. So that will do it for this episode of Zootopia Minute. If you did enjoy the podcast, be sure to, let me turn that down a bit. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And if you have any other thoughts, that's Zootopia Minute, by the way. All the links are down here in the corner. You should be able to see it if you want to follow us anywhere on there. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We had a lot of fun doing this at PonyFest Online, and we hope you all enjoy the rest of the con. We will see you guys later. Have a good one.